All right, good evening, Holliston, and welcome to the March 9th Select Board meeting. We have some very special guests to give us some updates. We have our state senator, Karen Spilka, who's also the Senate president, and we have Representative James Arena DeRosa here to give us some updates. And just to clarify sort of how the process will work here, they'll give their updates, then the Select Board might have a few questions, and then I will give an opportunity for the school committee chair and the finance committee chair to chime in on behalf of their boards, just so we can keep things manageable, so there's not 17 people asking you lots of questions. So we want to respect your time and such. So we can get started. Welcome. Thank you very much for coming in this evening. And we're going to kick it off with you, Senate President, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. I'm ready.
Sounds good.
I'm ready now.
Let's go.
Thanks so much. Thank you for inviting us again. I always enjoy coming here with Representative and to talk to you and find out what your concerns are and the issues surrounding the city, the town. I mean, and I know that we talk to you and the town manager and officials here constantly, and I want to thank everybody for keeping us in the loop, keeping us informed. It helps us do our job better when things come up sometimes quickly, when we're in the State House doing bills, when we know what's going on. Sometimes it's easier for us to quickly insert something for the town of Holliston to get something, and we work really closely together. I just want to thank Representative Arena DeRosa for his partnership, his friendship, and working so closely together definitely helps Holliston and all of Metro West. So it's a pleasure working with all of you, and it's great to be here. It's great to have you here tonight, and I again congratulate Frank on being on paternity leave. That's very exciting, and I'm looking forward to hearing from the Finance Committee Chair and the School Committee Chair for all the issues that are important. I'll start to just say I want to thank everybody that's here tonight, whether it be physically here or virtual, because there's so many things going on, and it's great that people are paying attention to Holliston and what's going on here in Massachusetts and actually across the nation. I'll start sort of with the budget to give you a flavor, because I know that's really important to all of you and the utmost in your mind. I have to start out by saying that the Trump administration's massive cuts to services and grants to Massachusetts, not only the country, but specifically to Massachusetts, have had and continue to have a very significant impact on Massachusetts. We are nearing $4 billion with a B in real financial impacts to Massachusetts. From healthcare subsidies, he's cutting about 350,000 Massachusetts residents off of healthcare. Now, if they still go for help and go to a hospital or a provider, by law, now the federal government is not going to pay for anything for them. The state must pay. We still have to provide health care, so it falls on what's called the uncompensated care pool, which Massachusetts over the last 10, 20 years has decreased that amount tremendously. So now it's beginning to come back up already, and that will increase hundreds of millions of dollars, our liability. The SNAP program cuts, changes to Pell eligibility, and education. We have had cuts from not only public higher ed, but K-12 cuts, early ed and care, Head Start programs. Nothing is off the table with them, unfortunately. Because of this, we are being very cautious with taxpayer money. Even though the state's incoming revenue, year-to-date revenues, are ahead of last year's collections by a little over $800 million. So that's great. And if it was just Massachusetts on our own, we would be, I think, in decent shape. But when we're getting all those cuts in the federal dollars that supports a lot of the programs that, towns like Holliston have, or schools, and so many other things. There's just no way we're going to be able to fill the gap from all of that. So, we're being cautious, and for the current fiscal year, just to review, Holliston's Chapter 70 funding for its K-12 schools was increased by nearly $400,000 to more than $9.5 million. UGA unrestricted local aid was increased by about $20,000 under that formula. We have more than doubled Holliston circuit breaker funding in the past few years. And I know how much mental health support has been, how important it's been for Holliston. So I will continue to prioritize that. I was able to get several $100,000 for my communities, and I applaud Holliston working with James in getting $100,000 in the school system for our Holliston students' mental health, because we know that that's so important. I'm proud to say that working together, we doubled Holliston's Chapter 90 road and bridge support over the last few years. The governor's Chapter 90 bill had a hearing last week, so we're looking forward to the House doing it and then doing it quickly from the Senate. So hopefully Holliston can get its Chapter 90 money when its construction season is still very active. I've heard I mentioned the school committee about budget challenges we're facing, and clearly mindful that this is an area that we really need to prioritize in all ways, and look forward to giving support to the district in the schools. As we approach the budget process in the coming months, I promise you that we will work together to do everything we can for Holliston. Just to summarize local projects that we've done, last year we were able to get $50,000 for the covered garaging for the Council on Aging's EV minivan. As I mentioned, we got $100,000 for mental health for the schools. I think that has been really helpful. $400,000 for municipal EV charging stations in my district, trying to spread that, and I know they are expensive for municipalities to do on their own, but citizens want them, and we should be providing them. I'm also proud working with Representative Irina DeRosa and the town administration to get $1 million grant to close the budget gap for the construction of the Woodland Street Bridge. That was a kudos to, I know this was a great example of it takes a village type of deal, where so many people worked. It was a long time coming, but boy, what a terrific project. Periodically, I would drive by there during all or try to go on either side until it was completed. But it's really a fantastic project. So I want to thank everybody who contributed to that project. I want to mention the constituent service work that my office has done this year as well. A lot of people don't realize that if they have difficulties, they can call my office, representative's office, for assistance in state services, programs, unemployment compensation, a whole array of services. If they have any questions, to call. We may not be able to help in every single circumstance, but we can sometimes direct them to somebody that can help them. And it's really important that they contact us, and not only for constituent help, but to express their views and ideas on a wide range of topics. Just to let you know, my office has responded to over 4,000 people across my district just this year alone. And I take great pride in providing that service and encourage residents to reach out if they need assistance or want to have their voice heard. We will listen. My district team is exceptional and always ready to help. I have Dennis Giambetti from my team here tonight. He's been a long-term and really understands town-wide issues. I'm proud that we finally won approval of the Mass School Building Authority to enter into the feasibility study for a new Holliston High School. Look forward to working closely with all members of the town, the representative, and this clearly is a great testament to the town's perseverance, and it's very exciting. So I'm very looking forward to that. I'm also pleased working together that we were able to secure $1.5 million for MassWorks grants. The town received $1 million in federal support for the downtown sewer project, finally getting Holliston into the sewer system underway, which also is very exciting. Look forward to continuing to support and assist Holliston in our pursuit of other funding opportunities and projects, or any other priorities that Holliston may have. I just want to take a moment before I turn it over. I'm trying to be brief because I know you have a long agenda. Just to talk a little bit about legislation and what we've done on the horizon. I do want to reiterate that the Senate is focused on bringing down costs for families, and I have to say, fighting the federal chaos and some of the Trump's policies and what's going on. We're tackling housing. What I hear the most about is affordability and housing. We did a $5 billion bond bill for housing last session, which is great, but we all know that's going to take a little while to actually produce. It's underway, and there already have been thousands of units produced, but I've tasked the Senate chair of the Housing Committee to look at housing policy. Go around the state, find out what the barriers are. Are the regions similar? Are there similarities? Are there differences? What can we do to make housing now? Because we know when people are going out for renting is highly expensive. Buying houses are out of the limits for so many families, particularly our young families. So we really need to produce more. We need to maybe change some policy. We can't just rest on housing production. We have to look at policies also. So we are taking a good look at that, and nothing is really off the table. So if anybody listening or has any ideas, please feel free to share. This tax season, seniors are already seeing relief through the senior circuit breaker. We did, the beginning of this last session, the largest tax cut bill in several decades here in Massachusetts. We made the child care and dependent care tax credit the largest in the nation. We doubled the senior circuit breaker from $1,200 to $2,400 for seniors. You don't have to own a house. You can rent, and you still can get some relief. So if people have any questions about that, you can contact the Senior Center, my office, the representative's office. We're here to help. But that is a significant savings. Also, things that we did that people may not be aware of, the free school meals. We did breakfast and lunch. That saves $1,200 per family per child every year. So if you have one kid, you're saving $1,200, two kids $2,400, significant savings, and our kids are really benefiting from that. So we're looking at other ways. The other thing I want to mention, last September, we did a cell phone ban, bell-to-bell ban for schools. I believe, talk about mental health issues. This communities that have adopted a cell phone ban have really benefited. My son is a high school history teacher in New York City, and they started the ban this September. They were very anxious about it. Turns out the kids love it. They are focusing more on school, they're talking more with their peers, they're getting more work done. They're not going to the bathroom as much to make plans to meet with their friends, to do drugs. I mean, everything, the bullying has cut down. My son said, and other people that I speak to say, it's really a game changer for the kids in particular. And so I'm hoping that we can get that on the governor's desk early this spring so that schools can plan on a bell-to-bell ban this coming September. I think we owe it to our kids. I think it would really make a difference. The other things we've done is in February of last year, I started a steering and policy committee in response to some of the chaos that was going on with the new administration. We called it Senate Response 2025. First thing out of the gate that we did was a bill, what we call SHIELD 2.0, protecting and enhancing women's reproductive care and health care, and protecting gender-affirming care here in Massachusetts. People said to me, aren't you making Massachusetts a target? I said, we're already a target. We need to really show people that we're protecting them. And the umbrella of this committee is meet with all of the senators, find out what's percolating up in their districts, the issues in their committees, because they're of their chairs, find out what the issues are, meet with advocates and stakeholders. And so we did, that was the first bill, and the House did that quickly, and it was signed into law by the governor last summer. We did a major data privacy bill. We believe that your personal data is just that, it's personal. And you should decide who gets to collect it and what they do with it. And if you don't want them to sell it, they shouldn't be allowed to sell your data. Companies are making millions of dollars, more than some of these companies, more than the product, and they're selling the data that they are collecting. And so under this bill, they have to show that they actually need to collect that specific data for the purpose of their business. We protect children with that. We protect your GPS data so that another state can come in. If somebody comes here for the health care that we've just protected, they can go to companies and say, we want to buy your GPS data to find out who from Tennessee came here or wherever, and it protects it from the federal government coming in and taking all of your data as well. So there's many other things. We've protected our enhanced protections for all of our children, for our schools, that they have the right for education and other things. And we are looking right now at some immigrant protections. The governor came out recently in her supplemental budget protecting them from so-called safe spaces, hospitals, churches, synagogues, schools. And I support those, and there are others that we are looking at, including Senator Brownsberger is working with this committee in coming up with a bill that would allow a Massachusetts citizen to sue ICE for violation of civil rights. That's a new concept. We presented it, and now other states are beginning to look at it and adopt it. But just unfortunately, all of immigration pretty much is covered by the federal government, so it limits what we can do. But we are trying to find the sweet spot where we can reach in and protect our residents because of what we've seen across the country. So protect our residents, defend our values, and help Massachusetts has been a big thrust for what we're working on now. Lastly, I want to say I look forward to seeing Holliston again soon when the students of the Holliston Drug and Alcohol Coalition comes to the State House. That's always a lot of fun. I appreciate your continued partnership and working together. It's so important, and I thank you, and I'll turn it over to James.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
James?
Start up, sure. Well, first of all, thank you. It's really an honor to represent the town of Holliston. What a gorgeous day. I was able to walk from Mudville, so that was a nice start to my evening. We are really blessed to have Karen Spickel, not only as our senator, but as the Senate President during these very challenging times. She has an amazing team. You've been so supportive. I really appreciate it. We're always calling, asking for advice. Dennis, great group over there, and really appreciate that. And the senator always provides such a great overview of what's going on, what's happening at the State House and around financial issues. I'd just like to add a little color commentary at this point, and then we'll get to your questions. So I just have a couple minutes, just a few things that I've been taking a look at.
Please.
Some of these are longer term issues as well. One of them is I actually was approached by 3 school committee chairs before I was even sworn in. We're concerned that why was the state raising the out-of-district special education tuition by, it was 14%, in fact, almost 20% in 2 years. And I've actually had meetings with superintendents and committees and different things, and I've actually filed legislation, and these things take a long time. But my premise is this: we tell cities and towns, you can only raise taxes by 2.5% and not go to the voters. So why can the state with impunity pass on a 14% and 5% increase? Now, every child should get what they need. That is not what I'm saying, but the question is who pays. And I just think we should look at other ways. The small towns just get crushed by these kinds of things. We're trying to do better. I know these conversations are going to continue. I also, if we were in another part of the country, the 15 towns around here would be in one school system. We do a little collaboration. I wish we did more centers of excellence, sharing expertise. It would also keep kids closer to their homes, which is what most special ed parents want, if they can. So a lot of work to do in the future. I know things are going to get looked at, but just wanted to put that out there. The senator mentioned affordability. We're hearing it all the time. Housing. The other one is energy bills. People send me their bills, and I'm like, yeah, I get sticker shock. I'm afraid to open my bill. The sticker shock is horrible, what's going on. But I also, I consider myself a relatively smart person. I can't understand my bill. I had to sit with somebody to really understand what's in that bill, and that is part of the problem, because there's this sort of myth out there of why is it so high. And we've passed legislation that's going to go to the Senate. Will look at it as well. We certainly want to balance long-term transition to clean energy against current costs. Can we do some rate savings? One of the things I hope we look at eventually is this GSEP program. It was a program to fix gas leaks that was supposed to cost residents $5 a month. Okay, I certainly want our gas leaks to be fixed. But now, where's the oversight if you have a mile of pipeline and there's 7 leaks? Okay, fix the mile. I get it, no problem. You have 5 or 6 miles of pipeline, 3 leaks, fix the 3 leaks. There doesn't seem, I've been probing and asking, and I'm still fairly new to the State House, where's the oversight of that? Where's the municipal role in that of what's needed, what's not needed? Lots of conversations ahead, and of course a long way to go for the Commonwealth before we get there, but it's important. I'm really glad the Senator mentioned universal school meals, which is something I'd worked on for my career really, but what's really important is those things pass and people say, well, why are we helping them? It helps everyone. And we would have saved $2,400 a year when my kids were in public school, right? So it's for middle class, even more if you have more kids, right? Yeah, you're doing the math. Tina's doing the math in her head.
Yeah.
But it's good for all of us, and so many programs are like that. It may be helping a specific group. It's really good for all of us. I want to put out something I call this situational awareness as your state representative, because I have heard and gotten a number of complaints from businesses in the town of Holliston on how difficult it is to do work and establish work here in Holliston. I know we've got a new team, Frank's on leave, and here, maybe a new pair of eyes can look at it. It's not for me to say what it is. Is it our regs? Is it the way they're interpreted? Is it the staff? Is it the communication? I don't know, but people, people think they're at the finish line. Oh, 2 more things. And just to be clear, because I know some of you are like, oh, I know who he's talking about. This is not one business. This is not 2. This is not 3. This is not 4. I track at the State House complaints or issues with state agencies, and no one's perfect. There's always this anomaly here and there. You get a handful of, that's a systems issue that really needs to be looked at. So if I can be helpful, if it's something with the state, and I always say this, look, if there's a state thing in here that I can look at, I'm happy to do that. Most of it is town purview, but as a resident, the only way we're going to hold taxes in abeyance is to grow the business sector in a responsible way, and I get that, and it's our town, and we have to do it our best way, but just wanted to put that out there for you to consider. Great success so far with the downtown sewers. Kudos to John Cronin and that team. Happy to be helpful as you go for the next round. I guess you're going for another round this spring. Always will be supportive in any way that I can. Larger earmarks, it's really leadership that carries the weight for all. So I'm so pleased to have Senator Spilka and again, Dennis, it's just been great. I get to do little earmarks that I try to help, and I try to base them on what I'm hearing from people in town. And one thing I heard a lot about in the last year from people, community groups in Holliston, like, James, why is it so costly now for our police details? It's costing more and more. And to be clear, I'm not questioning Chief Stone. He's had to face the concept that we now have lost our auxiliary police. It was one of these well-intentioned, the Post Commission, but they didn't give small towns enough time. I loved our auxiliaries. They were local, they knew the town, another pair of hands for a special event, not as costly. He doesn't have that option anymore. So I'm not questioning what's charged. The issue is, how do we help community groups? We've had some conversations. I talked to legal at the State House, and I can do an earmark, which hopefully will get some money to the town. The town can decide how best to use it. I think Ben had some good ideas on parameters. up to 50%, maybe $1,000 max per event. But these community groups do so many good things for our town. One group said, James, we only raised $2,000. We ended up using a huge chunk of it for our police detail. So I think it's a good thing that we can do. So many of them do great charity work, and they support this community culturally in other ways as well. So hopefully that will get through. And just to echo the senator, if I can be helpful to the board, to people in town, to staff, let me know. And again, if any residents need help, whoever's out there watching, listening, there was a survey at the Holliston Senior Center a few years ago, and one of the questions was, do you know who to call if you need help with government? And 2 out of 3 people said no. And I think it was because they weren't sure, well, is it state, is it federal, is it local? And as Senator Spiegel said, call us and we can problem solve. If it's a state issue, we'll help you navigate it. But if it's something with the feds, we'll put you in touch with our congressional delegation, the appropriate office. Same thing, if it's something that's really local, we'll call the town manager, one of you, and say, hey, is this something you can help with? But we really are there to help and do the best we can. And I look forward to working with all of you in the months and years ahead. So,
Thank you. Thank you. I'll just make one comment, and then I'll open up to the board, and then we might have some questions from the Finance Committee Chair and the School Committee Chair. So I just wanted to say thank you to both of you, first of all, coming in this evening, and thank you for all your support for Holliston. We really appreciate all the things that you do for us all the time, and your continued support with, as you say, the sewers and the Woodland Street project and things like that are really impactful for the community. So we're really grateful for all that you do for us every day.
It's always a team effort, so thank you.
Absolutely. So I'm going to kick it off and see, Tina, do you have any questions or comments?
A couple comments and maybe one question out of it. We have a great partnership with our state reps, truly, and I just want to bring it home for a moment for what we see here at the table with the issues that come before us and the department heads that come to speak to us about what they're dealing with in their departments. We had our budget hearing a full day on a Saturday just a couple weeks ago, and we heard from a number of our department heads about the mental health concerns that they see in their departments. And, it's not really a budget conversation, although it is, it's just sharing. So we heard from Kathy Lang, who is our veterans agent, that she is experiencing these issues, these concerns within the work that she's doing. We heard from Cynthia Lestevnik, our new Council on Aging Director, about her needs and her concerns. And we heard from Jackie Weiner, our Youth and Family Services Director, about her concerns, all related to mental health. So I believe Frank Gervasio, before he went out on paternity leave, contacted both of you to say that we'll be looking for ways in which we can work with you through that great partnership that we have to maybe bring some resources to the town of Holliston in any department. I name these as 3, right. But in any department to address the mental health needs that we're hearing from our department heads.
Work with you on this.
Thank you very much. Along the lines of that great partnership, Karen, you mentioned the Woodland Street Dam and the gap funding that you were able to address to get that project completed. Thank you, as well as the support for the MassWorks grant for the sewer. That partnership to help us secure state funding, and also I'm sure you had a hand with the federal funding with Jim McGovern coming through on the $1 million plus that he was able to bring to Holliston after it was put on pause early in this administration. This partnership is huge for us. You mentioned the Chapter 90 money and how that has increased to come back to Holliston to support us. Our road network is in increasingly better shape, and we are increasingly providing access for people who want more safety on the roads, but also people who want more access for biking and walking. I believe our data supports that things are improving in Holliston. I believe we have more people who are accessing the transportation network in Holliston the way they want to and doing it more safely. But I come back to that partnership that we have with you and both of your offices. It really makes a big difference when we see Chapter 90 go up, when we see these infrastructure projects moving forward. So I want to thank you for that. And finally, you asked if we have, well, I would come back to your comment. We have had about business development, business activity here in Holliston. We have had staffing changes over the past year. Our board has dealt with a number of, not challenges, but just changes. So I think we're in a period where there's opportunity. And I think this board is motivated to find the opportunity to address some of the concerns and more that you brought up and that we know exist. So I would point to 3 things. I would say we are looking for an economic development coordinator. We have that Metropolitan Area Planning Council's map for us. We're not even in year 3 of a 3-year program, so we're actively working. So we have an opportunity here in this hire to really double down on the plan that we have. We have town manager and a board motivated to look at our land use departments and find ways to improve efficiency and address the concerns that you've brought up. And I believe personally that this is a town that should be looking at a local option meals tax in the future. It'll be a difficult conversation for all of the obvious reasons, but I believe that's another opportunity that we haven't tapped into that can promote economic development, and we can turn it back to promote business activity in Holliston. So I think we have good planning in place. I think we need to execute those plans, and I think we have some opportunity with staffing to really do that in the coming year or two. So thank you for raising the concern, and I would say this board is hyper-focused on that, and we have some work ahead of us, but I think we're up for the task. In terms of questions, I have one. You mentioned the $5 billion that was set aside or earmarked, or whatever the correct word is. Forgive me for not knowing that right now,
okay.
But $5 billion for housing.
Stuck in the bill. That was put in the bill.
Well, we'd like some of the $5 billion. I think when you said how can you help, I think for a town like Holliston, getting guidance and support on using CPA funds and maximizing a housing trust and how that could work in the town of Holliston to bring affordable housing and all of the different ways by which we can do it. If there's funding that allows us to do that, or if there's guidance or support.
Would it be helpful to have some of you meet with people, representatives from the Secretariat of Housing and Livable Communities to bring your questions
Sure.
to them? And
Sure.
if we could send them your questions in
Yeah.
advance,
Sure.
maybe they could either come out here or meet you in the State House. We could host it and have a session just for Holliston and the Housing and Livable Communities folks, and we could do that
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That would be wonderful. I think we have a very healthy CPA. We have a very active CPC, which is a Community Preservation Act Fund and a Community Preservation Committee. We have very motivated people, and I think we have an opportunity there as well to do something in terms of housing.
Okay.
So look forward to that conversation. We'll reach out to you.
Yeah, Dennis will follow up.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. that's all I had.
Can I-
Appreciate
I
it.
just want,
Yeah.
just one comment. Holliston has done such a great job with long-term planning, especially with the way we've spaced out capital. And you mentioned congressional directed spending. One of the things that I've learned, it's so important, as soon as the town knows and has a good idea on where it wants to go, those are long cycles, and some of those meetings take years. So as soon as anybody's got something in the works, please let us know, and we can be thinking about it and talking to our contacts in the Senate office and congressional offices as well.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Damon?
Absolutely. Senator Spilka, first of all, thank you. I really appreciate all the work you've done for Holliston on the budget and on a lot of different items that are heading us from the state level. I'm kind of curious, given that you're in a very difficult situation with federal spending cuts that you did not ask for, but that you have capacity
And
for.
I don't like.
Yeah, it's between flat UGGA, the federal exposure you've described, do you see a near or mid-term realistic path where state, local, and federal fiscal relationship is tenable, or should we be kind of preparing ourselves and planning around structural constraints going forward for the near term?
It's hard to know. I have to say, it's hard, just like you see on TV, on the radio, how things change almost daily. So we could be planning for something, and then it just goes out the window because he changes his mind or the plan. I know we are being cautious. It would be great to be able to say to you tonight, we're going to dramatically increase Chapter 70 or local aid or these other things, but I wouldn't want to do that knowing that there is a chance, and I wouldn't even try to figure out what the percentage chance is, because again, it's hard, it would be a guesstimate. So we're being cautious. You have the governor's budget. There will be some changes. The House always has differences, and then the Senate has some differences. You know, we can keep you in touch with where we are heading, but again, as in so many years past, if you need to get a number and you at least use the governor's number, that generally is at least somewhat safe. But if you have questions, call. You know, and we'll give the straight scoop as to what's going on. But, you know, we know, I mean, even during 2015, 2016, when we hit a recession, and that's when I became chair of Ways and Means, and it was like, here you go, you know, thanks.
No kidding.
We had to cut the budget $1 billion each of those 2 years. We held harmless local aid, and I held harmless Chapter 70, because but that means then that other things have to get cut, and it's hard when you may have cuts this deep. It's not just it goes into the bone, and there are several lawsuits still going on. Attorney General Campbell has some lawsuits with some other attorneys generals across the country to fight some of these massive cuts, particularly for education and other things. And thankfully we have the fair share. I know that for some people that's controversial, but the fair share has covered the school meals, a lot of the K-12 education, the early ed reform and some funding, and keeping kids and providers in early education, and the public higher ed tuition and fees. I mean, we have some of the best plans, lowest debt for public higher ed in the country right now, and I want to keep it that way. So, we'll use every resource we have, and innovation will try to be innovative as well.
I appreciate that. I know, oh yeah, James. Feel
Let me
free.
finish. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, we appreciate the rock and a hard place situation you're in. We've got a lot of big infrastructure things rolling down the hill here in Holliston, a bit of a renaissance coming, but we want to be good custodians of the fiscal dollar and make sure that we're doing the right thing at the right pace.
Right.
So we'll try to keep an ear to the wire, and if you have any information, please let us know. I think we're all trying to do right by the town. So,
Right, yeah,
James?
definitely.
Well, no, and part of the challenge is there's different kind of cuts. There's the cuts that say, oh, we're not going to be able to do the bridge on the Cape. But then there's cuts to essential services. It's like, how are we going to be able to cover this? Can we cover it? Is it possible? And we're not going to be able to cover everything. And then on top of it, and these are the things that really worry me, and I remember during Obama, I ran USDA Food and Nutrition, and I've been meeting with people, and you look into the details of some of the bills coming out. On SNAP, if we want to have a SNAP program, $50 million more, we have to pay the federal government. If we don't get the error rate down, we're going to pay $400 million. Those are like actual costs that we have no control over. So it's all these complex situations that are bending against each other. And then on top of it, they change their mind every other
Yeah.
week.
Right.
You try to plan. I was on TV when Mary did it. Now John has the show, and she said, "How are you dealing with this?" I said, "The problem, Mary, is I could talk to you something about what we're doing today, and by the time the next show shows, I said it'll be different." So we're doing the best we can.
Managed chaos.
Yeah. Staying in touch is critical.
Sometimes not so managed. We're working at it.
Just
We're
chaos.
working at it.
And then James, just to follow up, so on the point about business, that's something that I'm very interested in. Point is really well taken. I'm actively interested in things like structural licensing reforms and, maybe ways of making that a little bit more concentrated. Would you mind sharing, if it's possible, do you have any more details on specifically the issues some of the businesses mentioned? It's okay if you want to take that offline, but I want to make sure we're
I can
pointed
do
in
a
the
little
right
of both.
direction.
I can give you, one of the things is that a couple times people thought they had everything lined up, they did what they were asked to do, and oh wait, you have more things to do. That's a communications issue. That's something we should be able to deal with. Around structural issues, there are some discussions about, we have 351 cities and towns, 351 approaches.
Yep.
Maybe there are some things, not all, because we want to give local control, that should be a statewide system around planning. And there's real discussions about that, and happy to talk to you. I'm not leading it, someone else
I
is
would love
leading it.
to follow up on that.
Those kinds of things, but it's a mix of things, and that's why I'm like, I'm not sure where it lies, because some of it might be the rules and the way they're interpreted, some of it might be the people, and maybe there's this opportunity, as Tina said, you've got new people here leading the town, so maybe we can just be positive and go forward, but I think we want to be good to local business as best we can. Doesn't mean the town doesn't have purview on where it wants to develop and not, doesn't mean the town shouldn't have things to say, well, we don't really want that, but yeah, and we can, happy to talk more too.
Great, thank you very much.
You all set?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So now I was going to invite the school committee chair to come up. Just we have to come up to a microphone. That's the only thing, Sarah. And then I will invite the finance committee chairs on the Zoom. So, but Sarah is here and might have some questions or comments on behalf of the school committee.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me here, and really pleased to be here with both of you. I just really want to extend our thanks for all of your support. Specifically, we're so excited about our invitation to the MSBA process for the Holliston High School. It's been many years in the making, and you've continued to support us all the way through this, so we're really incredibly excited to be jumping into the eligibility phase. I know we also sent you letters about Chapter 70 funding, but we also are fully appreciative of all of the things that you're weighing. You have provided much support that we are just very aware of. We understand the difficult decisions that go into that. I was at the Tri-County, I saw you at the Tri-County Superintendent's Breakfast the other, it was just last week,
Yeah.
I think. It seems like a long time ago. But it's, the message is really the same, I think, among all of the communities. We all need the funding. We're all making difficult decisions, and it's hard. But it's clear that you are listening and keeping our students and our education top of mind and high priority, and we're just really grateful for your support. So I think that's all I have.
Thank you for doing great work in difficult circumstances, and all of the staff and teachers and
Yes,
everybody there, administration, everybody.
Mhm.
It's tough times,
It is.
Kids are struggling in so many different ways, mental health one of them, but so many different
Yes.
ways. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, no, certainly big challenges. One of the things that I'd like to learn, actually I have a meeting with Ken next week to understand some of the formulas, but, and I talked, and Karen's been around for a while, and I know there were different phases of ed reform, so, and I'm not sure where you were involved and not here yet when Dave Magnani was around. I look at the formulas and I'm trying to understand it better because, look, do I want to make sure student opportunity, that Lowell and Lawrence, kids desperate have needs, I get it, no problem. I don't particularly like that they then throw us in with, oh, you're like Weston and Wellesley. Well, we're not Weston and Wellesley. We're in the middle, and I actually asked one of the people who's been there a while. I said, why didn't you have some graduated system that said, sure, these systems have real desperate needs. We're going to have to give them some extra. You're in the middle. We're going to give you some help, and then there's these other towns that are minimum support. And she actually said that there've been some discussions of beginning to talk about it. Of course, it's always a question of how much money we have, but I do think there's going to be. I mean, I didn't say it as diplomatically as the senator did, but she talks about the importance of regional equity, which I love that phrase. And I just there's something there that we could work around, and hopefully we'll get there eventually. But I look at the numbers. When I was first elected, the governor would announce percentages, and I would go and run and do the math, and then the numbers would come out like, wait, what happened? So no, I'm getting there, and I'm talking again next week. But anyway, we'll see.
Right.
But thank you.
We are looking at Chapter 70, looking at it again. In fact, the Senate last year included the beginning stages of looking at it, and I think it's time. We built into the formula when we did it last time, every 10 years. We may need it a little bit earlier than that to look at some of the inequities as well, like what Holliston and similar towns experience.
Do you have thoughts on that? I'm not the Chapter 70
But-
guru, so yes.
If you could just quickly.
Chapter
Chapter 70 is incredibly important. We would love your support on increasing that. What you did last year with the 75% fully funding, the 75% reimbursement of transportation was just out of the park, huge, and really appreciate that. So certainly, if you could do that again, that would be
Right, and that's why
much
we
more
try,
impactful than
we
the
try to
yeah.
look at, if we can't do it one way, what other ways
Right,
can
that's a
we
big
do
piece
it
of
that
picture,
will
yeah.
most help
Yeah.
some of the communities?
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but thank you for letting us know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. All right. I see Dr. Shada on Zoom. Dr. Shada, do you have some comments or questions for the legislators?
I always do. But by the way, I thank you again. As Mondays are always a bad night for me, which is why I end up zooming in instead of being there in person. But I want to start by saying thank you. I know you both put in a lot of effort on behalf of Holliston, so it's definitely appreciated. I'll try to keep it quick because I have my list of little things here that I want to. I'll start out just by fulfilling my mandatory obligation to say, when are you going to fix the open meeting law so that I don't have to do minutes anymore for recorded meetings? And so that I don't have to read that stupid thing every time I have a Zoom meeting.
I agree that we need to take a look at that. It's very complicated and controversial, but we need to start talking about that and public
Yes.
records, yes.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I'd be happy to volunteer to work with either one of you on redrafting the language to more appropriately suit the modern technologies. Because but it's one of these things where, as I said, you've only got a year and 2 months to extend it again. So,
Right.
So we'll see if the next pandemic comes before we finally codify it for real. So in any case, that's just my annual gripe to you guys. I was listening to what both of you said, and then I wrote down a couple of notes because there were a couple of things that I thought could help maybe. Okay, so one is you talk about the federal government, and obviously we all know what's going on with the federal government, so I understand the problems you have there. When you talk about things at the town level, and even between residents and the municipalities, one of the things, for example, that I think that the state needs to look at and do some real work on are things like utility rates, okay? So, as you know, New England has one of the highest electricity rates in the country, and I mean, it's double what the national average is, okay? So when we talk about things like helping town budgets, helping residential, affordability, things like this, that's something that helps both, right? We pay for electricity just like residents do as a town, right? So I know that the governor was touting and now getting the Hydro-Quebec, link, and it's going to reduce things. But to James' point, there are lots of things that go into an electric bill that, like the mass save thing, which I'm not an anti-mass save, but as you know, you were involved with this, significantly raised the budget for mass save, caused a significant increase in the charge on utility bills, caused a lot of people to start screaming, caused the governor to back off a little bit, things like that. But that's the kind of thing where there should have been that discussion up front of, okay, we want to put more towards these efforts, but what is that going to do to the average resident in terms of their utility bills? Because those, as I said, that's something that helps everybody, governments, private individuals. So I just encourage you to keep looking at ways of trying to bring down electricity rates, that's our utility rates. The other thing Dan touched on a minute ago, which was sped costs, right? I'll reiterate what James said. Everybody gets a public education. I'm not saying anything about sped in particular, but I'm just saying from a financial point of view, right? The variability, I think that one thing the state needs to start paying more attention to is how variability in costs affects towns like Holliston. There are towns that are much bigger, much more wealthy, that can absorb fluctuations a little bit better. And then there are towns smaller than us that have it far worse than we do. But one of the problems is some things that come along are so variable that when they hit, I'll give you a perfect timely example. Foxborough with the World Cup, right? You've heard about this whole thing about their $7.8 million for security, right? They're screaming about wanting the money, partly because they're not a big enough town to support fronting $7.8 million for the World Cup.
Frankly, I don't think any town should front that money, but.
Exactly, right? But the point is that there are other aspects, like the sped costs, when you talk about things like, okay, we're gonna just have out-of-state tuition go up. The town has to find a way to cover that. The state may come back and say, well, next year it'll show up in your Chapter 70 reimbursement the next year, but that's a year later, right? So there are things like that I think that you guys could look at too in terms of improving some of the reimbursement processes to not have the towns have to front an entire year's worth of costs before getting them back. I think that's one other thing. Okay, the last couple of things you guys didn't mention, but I put these on my list anyway. One is, we had this blizzard 2 weeks ago. Snow and ice is obviously a big problem for a lot of municipalities this winter. In the past, there have been state efforts to assist with major storms, where we'd see some, if there's some supplemental funding to help offset the costs of the major storms like the blizzard, not the minor ones, right? And I was just wondering if that's anything that's on either of your radars for the coming months, because that would be a big help. I mean, we're already, probably at least $250,000 over on snow and ice right now, which is, to be fair and not to panic anybody, it's not that atypical, but it is atypical in the sense it's more typical of a bad winter. We haven't had one in 10 years, right? So there are things like that where I look at, you talk about ways you can help the municipalities. That's a way where you can say, okay, this is a variable cost that happens, acts of nature. But if we have a little supplemental funding, we can benefit all municipalities by saying, hey, we're going to reimburse some of the expenses for this storm because, we understand that's, you're getting hit hard this winter, that kind of thing. And finally, one last thing I had was health insurance, right? So when, the town left West Suburban this year and went on the GIC, which has resulted in a savings that is basically going to allow us to probably get the budget balanced this year, okay?
Great.
Which is good, okay? However, the bigger issue that I see, having done this for a long time, it's more long-term, is these things are just eroding away the ability of municipal governments to do anything. And I'll go back a long time and say, okay, when we went to school, how many schools had activity fees for sports? How many schools had, had activity fees for clubs? How many schools had bus fees, right? And what's happened is over the last 20, 30 years or whatever, it's slowly creeped in. Why has that happened? Because municipalities, because of Prop 2.5, which I'm not anti-Prop 2.5, but I'm saying that every decision that's made at the state level concerning municipal finance has to take that into account, that when a cost gets shoved onto a town, they can't just go ask for more money easily, right? And nor do you want them to, right? But the point is that, it's a sped transportation cost increase here, it's a new state mandate here, over here for voting and elections here and things like that. And when you add it all up, what it does every year is when we sit there and say, okay, here's how much we can raise the levy legally without an override. Well, here's that pot, and a good chunk of it gets eaten up before we even start. And health insurance is one of them. That's why I wanted to go on that. You look at health insurance inflation. Some insurers, and this doesn't apply to like the GIC, but I'm saying some health insurers in the state have been getting approved 12 and 14% increases. And I can tell you personally, I know my own health insurance has gone up 14% this year and went up 12% last year. So I'm giving you real numbers, right? And that's not insignificant. We sit there and say, well, inflation's 3%. Well, who cares if you're paying 14% more for your health insurance, right? And again, I'm not, this is not on the two of you, but you were asking about areas that I think the state could look at to help improve things for everybody. And that's what I see, right? I sometimes wonder the extent to which the agencies that oversee some of these increases are living up to their mandates as opposed to just taking the data that comes from the companies and saying, okay, right? Because that's the way it looks on some of these things, right? Eversource comes in and says, okay, we need a ton of more money, so approve our new electric rates. And it's only when people start screaming that the governor turns around and says, well, maybe we'll cut down mass save to help. Well, where was the digging into the data? Maybe I missed it, maybe they did it. I'm not watching their hearings, but it's the kind of thing where it's like, you should have known this is gonna happen if you're approving a 10, 15% rate increase, right? So where's the analytics saying, hey, Eversource or National Grid or whoever, hey, we're gonna look at your numbers and you gotta do a better job of managing your costs. You can't come up here and ask for 10%, 15% every year. Anyway, that's my little rant for today, but
Okay.
I just said, when you were talking about different areas, I wrote down a few things that I personally, as you know, I've been doing the finance committee job for a long time, and I've seen the erosion take place over my time on the finance committee, and it's one of these things where, now I'm looking at it saying, well, if you're looking for areas to explore, those are the things that I think, could get some attention that could benefit not just the residents, but also the municipalities. So, thank you.
Can I respond?
Of course,
Yeah.
yes.
And I thank you for all of that. A lot of that we do look into, like the electric rates, utility rates. When we get our bills and we hear from our constituents, we contact the state agencies. We sit down with them. My office sits down with them and asks them to explain what's going on and justify what's happening. So it is important for people to contact us with those things. But I just want to note that a lot of what you've mentioned involves more revenue. And, not all of it, but a lot of it. And I do just want to mention, I have to mention this, that, as you heard, things are tight now. There is a potential ballot initiative up for the ballot next November that would lower our income tax from 5% to 4%. Now, I'm not going to get into the politics of income tax and taxes, But I do want to mention two things. Millionaires would get an additional $10,000, at least $10,000 a year by that ballot initiative. Somebody on minimum wage would get almost $300 for the year back from that tax decrease. The state would lose $5 billion out of a $61 billion budget. That is a significant chunk of revenue. So on top of the Trump cuts and our revenue, to put that on top of it, I just think people need to think twice. You're mentioning a lot of areas. I would love to be able to say, yes, we'll give more revenue to these areas, but just like the town has one pot of money, and works hard to extend it as best and as equitable as it possibly can, the state does too. So I appreciate the feedback, though, and we'll keep talking about a lot of those issues.
And Ken, I look
And
forward.
just to be clear, on some of them, I think that you're correct, it's revenue, but it's also, in my mind, efficiency, right? You get into this mode where every year the utilities come, every year the utilities file a rate increase, every year they kind of look at the same things. It's like, as I said, at some point you have to look at that and say, okay, let's go look, let's talk about how you guys become more efficient so you're not coming to us with a 10% raise next year.
I agree. I think the governor did do that this year, but I agree that should be done. That should be done on everything presented by the big companies.
Yeah.
So Ken, I look forward to our meeting next week and maybe talk about some of these systems issues. I know I have a lot of questions for you. And just back on what the senator said about this ballot issue, the state government, we can't print money like they do with the feds. The feds can promise you a tax cut, print out money and not have to pay. We have to balance the budget. And unlike folks that we have in the town, where we present to the town and say, you want to have this new school, this is what it's going to cost. We need an operational override. If not, we're going to lose 2 police officers. This is a question of, do you want less taxes? Well, I want less taxes. I want to pay less taxes, right?
Everybody
What's
does.
the cost to it? And I hope we're going to do a good job at least explaining so people know what it is that's going to happen if it passes. So anyway, but I'll look forward to our meeting next week.
Great. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Any final thoughts before?
No, a lot of food to think about, but as always, thank you so much. It's great
Thank you.
to see you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Very,
thanks.
very good. Many issues that we will continue to follow up on.
Thank you so much. We appreciate
Thank
you
you. I
coming
do
in this
take
evening,
notes.
and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
And
Thanks so
we'll
much.
we'll work to schedule that meeting with Housing and Livable,
Great.
whatever works best for all of you.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank
Stay
you.
in touch on anything.
Thank you.
Thank
Yep.
you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Much
Thank you so much. Have a
Thank you.
great night.
Lovely evening over
Yeah.
there.
I know. What's left of it. Yes. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Or we'll give them a moment to head on out. All right. All right. So next we have a couple items on the agenda for conversations about the town meeting warrant. I'm going to talk about the town meeting, the warrant in general a little bit for just a second here. While we have some members of the school committee here, because there's certainly been some questions about the MSBA process and the role of the select board here and the warrant for town meeting in May. And so the question that has been presented to me is the feasibility study, an article for the feasibility study on the warrant in May? And the answer is yes, there is an article for the feasibility study on the warrant in May. That is there. At this point, we've submitted language through our council who said, go the MSBA's purview, so it would go to the MSBA. So the MSBA has the language and they're reviewing the language for the actual article. And then on the other side, the other piece is financial, is being able to sort of figure out how that works. It's a large sum of money, and it's not, and there's some moving parts here, and we'll get there. It's just it's not a simple, here it is, that's it. It's that we have to go through some steps here, and we'll get through it and get there. And as far as I'm concerned, we're closing the warrant this evening. It's on the warrant. There is no intention, as far as I know, I'll let the other board members speak up about it as well. There's no intention to take it off the warrant, and any intention to do so would be with a conversation between the schools and the select board, as far as I'm concerned. And normally, under statute, the select board manages the town meeting warrant, and I think this is very particularly important. It's a community-wide decision, and I believe that there should be as much community opportunity for conversation. And it's a slow process. We're not even in the eligibility phase yet. And, you know, this is going to take years. There's going to be a lot of conversations about this. It's going to go in front of town meeting multiple times. There's going to be ballots. It's going to be things on the ballot in the future. Let's, you know, we have to make sure that we're aware that this is going to take a lot of time, and we're going to get there. And, you know, right now, we're just trying to figure out how that feasibility study goes forward. So it's there, it's not going anywhere, and I believe both boards should have that conversation before anything would take place, and nothing is gonna take place without that conversation happening. And I'll let Tina, if you wanna speak up about this as well.
Yeah,
What your thoughts are.
I would say that, this board has consistently demonstrated over 7 years, 7 applications? It's either 7 or 8.
It's a lot.
We'll go with
Many.
7. This board has consistently
fingers.
voted to support the statement of interest. I recall going into the State House a year and a half ago, December of '24, to sit down with Dennis Giambetti in the Senate President's office, and I brought forward 3 concerns that I felt as a board member that Select Board was hearing a lot about, and I wanted to present them to her office and ask for their support and advocacy, one of those being the new high school build, our statement of interest to enter into the MSBA program. So I feel we've done nothing but demonstrate support, and I look forward to continuing to do that. I think we have examples of how that work is happening now. I would say I appreciate the working group. I have really enjoyed collaborating with the 2 members of the school committee who are in the working group, and I look forward to more productive conversations that I bring back to my board to share. Everything rather, I should say, is brought back to the board to share with you both, and Frank and Hillary have done the same with their committee, and I think that is the best example to the community of good faith, transparency, and an openness to dialogue, and I look forward to continuing to do that while also continuing to support this project going forward. So
Great.
that's all I have to say.
Great. Damon, any comments?
Yeah, nothing much to add. I want to thank Tina for that. I completely agree that us working with the other boards is going to be key for me. It's really just about being fast and thoughtful at the same time, so that's where I'm at.
Okay, great. Yes?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Do you want to come up?
May
Yes,
approach
please.
the bench.
Please, well, you're not on like, you need to be on microphone. That's fine.
Okay. So appreciate it. Just quickly, because I didn't actually hear the words, can both Damon and Tina state definitively that they support having the article on the May town meeting warrant? That's
Absolutely.
okay.
I'm sorry, what is the
Just that
question?
you support having the feasibility study article on the May town meeting warrant.
We will have a vote to, is it, I'm sorry.
Well, there's nothing to vote on right now. We don't have.
No, I'm not
we don't
asking
have
for a vote.
vote.
I'm
It's
asking
on the
for.
warrant right now, so isn't that support?
Well, last October, the $2 million capital request for the roof was on the warrant, and then there was a vote to take it off the warrant. And so what I'm saying now is I'm looking for a statement of support, not necessarily support for the article that you vote for at town meeting and that you support there, but that you support it being on the May town meeting warrant.
And I think this
You
board
have
has
been
said-
very
I think
clear,
this
Ben.
board has said yes, and it's not going anywhere. It's not going to be taken off the warrant.
I have not heard Tina say that.
Is there a challenge in the question?
No, just the question is, do you publicly support having the feasibility study on the May town meeting warrant?
As my chair stated, it is on the
The
warrant. We
the
will
select board
vote.
supports having it on the warrant. Whether or not the individual, like, we're not moving it, it's not going anywhere, it is on the warrant, it's not, you would not go, we would not be removed without your board and my board agreeing to do so.
Right, that's not exactly what I'm hearing, but since,
You know, but the thing is that it's there, so isn't that is supporting
the $2
having.
million
it on there.
capital request for the roof was there until it wasn't. So all I'm saying is that was removed.
But what I've said repeatedly is that in order to remove it, your board and my board would have to agree to do so.
Okay.
I would say this one thing. A past vote that demonstrates the result is the result of a thorough deliberation by a 3-member board that ultimately prevailed is good, open, public process and deliberation. Let's not take that and bring it forward to serve as a purpose to distrust the members of this board on this current situation. I understand what you're referring to, and I take no issue with your opinion on that moment, that vote. But let's not bring forward something that was a representation of deliberate, open dialogue that ultimately prevailed for the benefit of the issue that you state, which was the roof repair for the elementary school, that prevailed. And it came from thorough deliberation, which is what we are tasked to do as elected officials. And I'll stand by that any day. But let's not bring that forward and say that that serves as a purpose to sow distrust today. Our statements have been clear. They've been transparent. There's no indication to suggest that there's something nefarious happening based on a prior vote that represents a thorough, deliberate decision-making process in an
But
open public meeting.
I don't want to litigate this right
Okay,
now,
I would just say that I disagree with that.
You can
because-
disagree, that is totally fine if you want to do that. I think this board's very clear, it's on the warrant, it's not going anywhere unless your board and our board
Okay.
agrees to do so.
Well, I
That's
appreciate,
it.
Damon, your
That's-
demonstration of
My,
support.
my only caveat there, I think we all share, is we all reserve the right to be better informed and smarter tomorrow than we are today.
Yeah.
So, right, notwithstanding new information, new oddities that show up, but you know where my heart's at.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Thanks, Dan. All right. Next up, we have the Board of Assessors. Mr. Kevin.
Just the principal assessor tonight.
Just the principal assessor this evening.
Thank you.
And what we're going to do this evening, if we are going to talk a little bit about some of the articles that you are putting in front of us.
Right, which the board has voted to put before you.
Okay, great. And I understand the language, but we had placeholders previously for the warrant, and so this isn't, there's nothing new. It's just the
No,
language is more
hopefully
official.
the town manager gave you the final wording, because
Okay.
I know at our budget hearing, you had a previous version, even though I had given him
It's okay.
the final version.
We still have time to
And-
tweak the language. We just want to
and
make sure
just
that
to
they're on
be
that
sure,
list.
The town manager, while I was already working on proposing these to the board, the town manager approached me with the exact same ideas.
Okay,
So he is perfectly in sync with these.
wonderful. That's great.
So, do you want me to run through them quickly? or-
Yeah, why don't you just kind of walk us through what is being put in front of us?
Okay. Well, as you know, the Department of Revenue disallowed the transfer from the assessor's overlay account that was voted on at last October's town meeting.
Yes.
So one of them is to nullify that vote. The transfer was subsequently made by the Finance Committee from the reserve fund.
Okay,
But in order to clean up everything,
we're going to nullify that.
we
Okay,
need to nullify that vote.
gotcha.
The next one is one that the town manager is actually asked to postpone till the fall town meeting,
Okay,
which is the contribution to the fiscal year 31 Department of Revenue recertification.
is that on the warrant tonight?
It should not be.
It is not.
It is not, okay.
No, but it was in the package.
Okay.
But
The reason I ask is just that, because we're going to
Yes.
close the warrant this evening. If
Yes.
it was on there, we could vote to remove it. That's all I was going to
okay,
point
but
out.
both the town manager and the Board of Assessors
That's fine.
and myself all agree with postponing it.
Sounds good.
Okay, now we're getting into the meat of what is a package of articles, and the best way to explain it is, we're trying to ensure that we're offering seniors and veterans the maximum exemptions we can.
Okay.
And over the years, the state has changed these. A year or two ago, they passed 4 years ago, they did the BRAVE Act, then they did the HEROES Act. So what we did is we went through all the exemptions we offer
Mm-hmm.
versus what's available, and we're now proposing to bring us up to the level that we're offering everything we can locally. So one of them actually is readopting something we've adopted, which is the so-called Clause 41C senior exemption, which we already offer But for some reason, the DOR does not have it on the list of things we offer. And by voting it and then submitting the vote to them, I can't answer for what happened prior to me being employed by the town. So we're just really accepting a town law and doing exactly what we've been doing, but being able to forward a certified vote to the Department of Revenue so they know we're offering it. There is one caveat on this one. The current exemption we offer is $1,000. The Senate 2 weeks ago passed a bill that the House has yet to pass that would change this exemption to allow a town, right now it's a $500 exemption and the town voted to raise it to the maximum of $1,000. If the bill prior to the town meeting is passed and signed by the governor, it would let the town set that amount at any dollar amount it wants. What I would suggest is if that happens, still stick with this, and then we have a discussion for future years
Got it.
on whether to increase it.
Okay.
The next one adds the annual cost of living to that exemption. And what this allows is, every year in January, the Department of Revenue would tell us what the cost of living adjustment is. And if we accept this article, we would then apply it. So, for example, the $1,000 exemption, had we had this in place now, 2.9% would have been added to it. And the total increased cost to the town through the overlay fund, given who has it now, would have been $261. Not a huge amount of money to begin raising people up. And it just means that instead of the same 1,000 every year, you know, if the cost of living is 1%, it goes up by 1%. Yes, it will creep up over the years,
Right.
but it's ensuring that we're giving the seniors the most we can give them as an exemption. The next one is the same thing to the other senior exemption, which is a very small exemption, called the Clause 17D. And I just found a typo in the wording. It's okay, we'll catch it in the printing. And again, it's the same COLA. Had that been in place this year, the additional cost would have been $101.50. The next article is, we currently offer what's called a Clause 18 tax deferral. That is primarily for seniors who have severe medical issues where we can waive all or part of their taxes. We consistently, in my 5 years here, have had about 5 or 6 people who get their 100% waiver. And although we're not allowed to talk about them, I can tell you they're in no shape to pay anything, mentally, physically, whatever. What this one would do is, we've had questions over the years, can't you help somebody who temporarily has a financial hiccup in their lives, but is not a senior and doesn't have a medical issue? This Clause 18A would allow the Board of Assessors to give a temporary deferral. Let's say somebody says, I've gotten laid off, I'm actively pursuing a job, but I can't pay my tax bill this year. It would allow us to, this is a deferral, it would allow them to defer the bill for a maximum of 3 years, pay it back with interest to the town. The assessors would do it the board would do it on a case-by-case basis. We have had people approach us in the last year or two and say, I'm in this situation, and there's no way we can help them. The town does not lose the revenue, it does come back to the town with interest. And we have a lien on their property to ensure that.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you, when that happens, do you direct them to the Holliston Community Action Fund?
We do that, and if they might not be able to pay the bill. You know, if somebody comes to us, typically they come in January when they've gotten the 2 final quarter bills, and they may not have paid the first 2 quarter, and they find themselves owing whatever their bill is. And at that point, you know, we refer people to them all the time.
Sure.
We have a network of referrals among the senior center, the youth and family services, ourselves.
It sounds like this article would allow for a more efficient process by which they could relieve.
It gives you a little bit more
it's one more avenue of help for people in temporary need. That's the way I'd phrase it. However, it's not a grant because we do put a lien on the property and they do have to pay it back with interest within 3 years. And the board would be very, very judicious about giving these out. I mean, this is not something you give out willy-nilly, but on the other hand, if you have somebody, it's the difference of them losing their house or their kids dropping out of college and they need temporary help, it just gives us the ability to do that. And is the only thing, the only tool we would have to help a non-senior, by the way. Now we go to the veterans. The same thing would allow adding the COLA to the veterans exemptions that we have. In one case, had we had it in place this year, $1,100 additional cost. The next one is a new law that came about in the so-called HEROES Act a year and a half ago, which basically said if you are the surviving parents of someone who died in action, whether a full-time service person or a person in the National Guard called up to active duty by the president, not the state, that their surviving parents or guardians would get the same thing that a spouse would get, which is a full exemption from property taxes. Right now, as far as I know, we have nobody in this circumstance, but we wanted the ability to offer it if something happens. The next one was, as you know, we exempt the first 5,000, well, no, we don't exempt the first 5,000. We exempt anybody who has personal property under $5,000 from taxation. In fiscal '22, we raised it from $3,000 to $5,000. 2 years ago, the town's auditor is suggesting increasing it to $10,000. We've looked at that. The annual loss in tax revenue to the town would be less than $3,000 a year. But it really is a way, the representative mentioned helping businesses. This basically would eliminate not real estate taxes, but the personal property taxes from probably 99% of every small business in this town. And again, it's not costing us. The majority of this tax, by the way, is paid by the larger building owners, and the two largest contributors are Instar Gas and Instar Electric, pay the bulk of it, and Algonquin Gas. So in reality, if I went up and down Main Street right now, I would say that it would eliminate personal property tax from everybody from here probably all the way up to Hoppingburg. It's a good thing for small businesses. It's something we can give them as a help. And again, you know, we lost, I think we came out with like 2,700 or 2,800 when we raised it from 3,000 to 5,000. Again, the maximum would lose is $3,000 right now, and it's a way of helping the small business. And then finally, this is one that I discovered Hopkinton did that I'll talk about. This would be very similar to our means-tested exemption that we petitioned the legislature 4 years ago to grant. We're in the second year of that means-tested. Hopkinton, as you know, is in a school building boom. And so they submitted one that would exempt the same people who qualify for the circuit breaker exemption. They exempted from paying for their school building projects. We've kind of written this to say, first of all, right now only 33 people meet the qualifications, so I don't want anybody to think this is a mass exemption of hundreds of people in the town. This, if passed by town meeting and then the legislature, would allow the Board of Assessors to exempt seniors from a portion of the debt exclusion construction project costs. Not the whole thing,
Who
but a
sets the
portion.
portion?
The Board of Assessors
Will
would in
set
this
the
case.
portion. Okay.
I have no problem changing that to the Select Board. at all. I'm using Hopkinton's wording and changed it. As you know, you set the percentage for the senior circuit breaker means test, primarily because that's a tax classification issue, and you hold the classification hearing every year. This would actually be an exemption, not a classification issue. And basically, right now, I can't tell you what the costs are, but I can tell you that for this year, we had 33 people meet the criteria to do this. And you could say, let's just say that a project added $100 a year to their bill. You could say, we'll exempt that $100 for the people who qualify. In this case, that would be $3,300. And, you know, I don't think the Board of Assessors would take an action without collaborating with your board, if you want to leave the wording as Board of Assessors.
I think we can talk about it at some point.
Yeah,
We can have a conversation about what the right thing to do is. You said
Yeah.
that Hopkinton
Now, there's
they
only-
use the
yeah.
assessors
Yeah.
do it in Hopkinton?
They do. There's only one town that has this right now.
That's Hopkinton?
I was talking to the Hopkinton assessor at a meeting, and I was asking him how his circuit breaker was going, because our wording actually stemmed off of his.
Yeah.
And he said, well, we did this last year and it passed the legislature. Fiscal '27 will be the first year they do it.
Okay.
So nobody's done it before.
Okay.
But on the other hand, I went to the town manager and I said, we have a chance to be leaders.
And given all the projects, it might be prudent to have
Well,
some
I also
options.
thought, if you know when you do a debt exclusion, it's usually a year or two before you actually borrow the money.
Right.
This would allow time for the town meeting to think about it. And by the way, it has the same 3-year sunset clause, so it would have to be renewed every 3 years by the town meeting.
Okay.
This would be a chance to get something through, if it goes through the May town meeting, and then it typically takes the legislature about 18 months to 2 years. It might be signed into law by the time we borrow money. And if you can help 33 people
Yeah.
a little bit, or maybe it'll be 40 people. You can also, by the way, by set a limit on the amount. It's written here that the Board of Assessors could throttle the amount to be exempted.
And you said that the Board of Assessors has approved each one of these.
They have approved all of these articles.
As they are.
They
presented
actually,
to them.
in this one, they actually edited and made changes too.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
And I personally took it away from being school-focused to make it debt exclusion-focused.
Okay.
Um,
Would it, so it would be basically per year based on each of the debt exclusions, or would it be like, if we
They would
said-
have to apply every year.
Okay, and it would be for all the
I'll
debt
run you through
exclusions.
the thing. The person would have to be 65 or older,
Yep,
get the circuit breaker tax exemption from the state,
yep.
live in the town for a minimum of 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
It would be the circuit breaker income guidelines and asset guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'd have to apply an individual application every year.
Okay.
And then would look at the total people allowed
Mm-hmm.
and, probably the assessing staff would make a recommendation to the board.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in this case, the discussion with the board is they would probably have a discussion with you if it's left as Board of Assessors before deciding what to exempt. But you could just say, let's say, I'm gonna pick a number out of thin air. I think we calculated, I'm gonna put James on the spot. You and I calculated a real broad ballpark for the highway barn.
Right.
Do you remember what we came up with?
It was between 259 and 359.
Okay, so let's say it's 200. We could say exempt the whole 200, exempt 100 of it, exempt half of it. And then just like the means tested senior exemption, that amount that's exempted gets spread among all the residential taxpayers. So you're shifting that burden to all the residential taxpayers, including the people getting it, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
So right now, you know, we've shifted, with $73,000 this year, I believe,
Okay.
in the means tested. You wouldn't know the amount until you actually had a debt exclusion. But the intent is to give people some relief.
Sure.
I don't want to say total relief, some relief. And when you add in all the criteria and keep it to the means tested, I mean, we were 18 people last year, we're 33 people this year. We're not talking thousands of people.
Okay. Great.
And again, this would have to be explained at length at town meeting.
I know.
And town meeting would have to approve,
Yes.
and then would have to go take it up to the state level and,
Get approved, but it got approved at the legislature.
well, the fact that Hopkins, what typically happens is, what happened with the means tested, candidly, is 3 or 4 towns started.
Right.
There's now 18 towns,
Okay.
and there's now pending in the House, instead of each town submitting their own, there's now pending a bill that would just allow cities and towns to adopt this by a vote at town meeting instead of petitioning.
Yeah.
What I envision is if we're number 2,
Yeah.
there'll be a number 3,
Yeah, and then it'll keep
and
going.
by the time you get to 10 or 15, there'll
Then
be a
there'll be a
bill
bill
to make it easier for people to do it. Because,
It makes sense to do it with the given all the projects. So.
yeah, and
Yeah.
the thought behind it was, we have some costs coming in the future.
Right. Right.
It would be nice to lay the groundwork to have things available.
When that happens. Yeah. I get you.
You know, we, the nicest way to say, we talk to most of the seniors
Right.
who face economic difficulties with their taxes.
Yes.
We help them fill out the abatements. We kind of know what they're thinking. And they're not shy about telling us,
Yeah.
I can't afford to vote for this or that.
Yeah. Yep.
This might be
A way to give them a little bit of relief. to
relief, so they might feel more comfortable
Supporting. it.
supporting something
Gotcha.
that they believe in but economically can't
Got it.
support.
Okay.
And I'm being very honest about it. It's putting a tool in place.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think it's good to have tools available to us to help people who need it.
So those are the articles.
Okay,
And
great.
um,
Tina, I was gonna see
Yep.
if Tina or Damon have any questions or comments or anything this time.
I like the way you describe this as a package of articles, a cluster of articles that are looking to get the maximum exemption for seniors.
And veterans.
and veterans.
And veterans, thank you. I think that's a noble endeavor and one that ultimately this town would support. I think the spirit and the intent of this last article is a good one. This is a first, I think, where we're being presented with a change that would allow somebody to vote for spending that they're not then responsible for.
Well, they don't know that yet.
Right.
It's hard to explain because you don't know if a person voting to approve this would ever be eligible.
They might know because they've already qualified for senior exemptions under the other
Under the means
policies
tested,
that we
yes.
have.
But we're gonna need more than 33 people to approve it, if you want to tell me to approve
Mhm. Is there a path to this passing that goes to the ballot box as opposed to through town meeting?
You could indeed do that. What you would be voting on in the ballot box is to ask the state legislature to pass special legislation. How you do that, I mean, typical route is have town meeting vote on it. If you want to run it through the ballot box, I think, 3 pages of text might be more confusing than some of the state ballot questions. At least at a town meeting, you could explain it thoroughly and answer questions. But that's up to you folks.
I
Not
hadn't-
me. I don't set policy.
I have no concern about the spirit and intent,
Yeah.
none whatsoever. And I do not have the framework in my thinking to look at this in the way that I think it actually might need to be looked at, which is to say, Damon, you go next, because I think I might need to think about my thoughts for a little bit as I am
Well,
saying these things out loud.
Well, and
I'm
also,
thinking there's
also,
a context
but
here,
also keep
framing.
in mind, we're getting this introduced to us. This
Right,
doesn't mean
right.
this is the final word that this is just an opportunity to ask the assessor about the
Okay,
particulars.
but may I put it this way? Whether it goes before whoever attends the town meeting,
Mhm.
or whether it goes before a broad audience at a ballot box, the intent is the same.
Right.
So people look at it, ask questions about it, they decide to say, yes, ask the legislature to do it, or they say, no, don't ask the legislature to do it. It's irrelevant to me, the method chosen to get it there.
Understood.
You know, and again, I'll give you pros and cons of each. Town meeting, people can ask questions in person.
Right.
The ballot box, they can't. A finite audience, a broader audience.
Council has reviewed the articles?
I don't think so.
I don't think
That was going
To your point, where this is not we're listening and hearing, and we have a long runway before town meeting, I'd be more than satisfied to hear town council's feedback on this. I think the concern, it's not even a concern, the framing that's forming in my mind is to the exemptions that are in the prior
Yes.
articles refer to the operating budget.
Right, they're basically, you're accepting a portion of state law that allows you to change existing things.
Mhm.
They do change the operating budget in terms of overlay.
Mhm.
Excuse me.
Well, thank you for the presentation. If town council's going to review, I will wait for their feedback. I, again, appreciate the intent and spirit and support it ultimately, but there's some, the mind is grappling with a few complex thoughts that I'm not articulating well, and I think
Okay.
council will help me form them or
Yeah.
remove them, and I'd look forward to that feedback.
Yeah, and we can, this is the first stage, like, let's just know what's out there.
Yep.
And then, we're not, tonight is just informational, and then we can explore what those look like over time.
And quite honestly, if the board wants to table it for a year and do research on it, that's not an issue.
I'm not endorsing
We just put it
that.
in the package.
Okay.
We'll see if my mother comes to the table and yells at me for votes that I pass.
Damon?
Yeah, so I'm glad that you mentioned having town council review it. I'm in line with the spirit of the thing. I do think there's a couple of nuances there in the language, section 2, that allows the board to broadly have discretion over, I think it was assets in excess of the intended recipients, et cetera, which gets into kind of a question of like, is that well defined? Do we have like a number? And I think that's the means testing that you've already alluded
If I
to.
may, that is,
I'm not looking to resolve it here. I'm just saying that's something I want.
that's the state criteria for the circuit breaker, so
Totally.
that's
I'm-
set by the state.
And that kind of relates to the board having discretion over such a small group of individuals. I actually worry about rules that put very personal touches on law. Because, like, you might think that if it was, we're talking about 33 people, but those are going to be people we know, members of the community who might interact with the board as well. So I just think we want to be thoughtful about the legislative implications of pushing this through at the state level, not that we'd be pushing it through. But I like the spirit of it. I would just want it reviewed by council. There's a couple of nuances in there that make me a little bit nervous, but the idea is fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just say the majority of it has already been vetted by town council and the legislature's
Great.
council.
Okay.
But again, anything, again, it was just part of a package
No,
to
it's
try to.
Perfect.
Sure, no,
Great.
thank you for
And
presenting.
I think it's good to, it's good to have these conversations about all these different pieces.
And that's only one part that we're even raising, so that means
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah,
victory in
and
itself.
It's interesting that there is an entire course on tax policy that assessors can take, and I've taken it 3 times because I want to teach it.
It's good.
And that's where you have these discussions.
Right.
And again, we are more implementers of policy than policy setters.
Your confidence is impressive and appreciated. Your confidence in what you're presenting to the board means, I understand and I appreciate that the knowledge that you bring to the board, to your board and this board, in terms of the exemptions here is impressive, and thank you.
I thank you. Tina, I don't like to brag, but the bill that's before the House to make the means tested adopted by town meeting, I wrote it.
Nice.
Nice. It's great.
You can brag a little. It's fine.
No, I actually co-wrote, there was an assessor in the North Shore, I, and the legislative staff of the Joint Committee on Revenue wrote that bill several times last year. So,
Well, we appreciate all the things that you do for all of us and thinking about those kinds of things. It's, we're grateful for all that work.
candidly, personally, I just like to see it get implemented before I leave.
Understood. I understand. And we'll, you know, I think, you know, there might be some questions and, you know, but I think,
Yeah.
the idea, I think, is a solid one. And I think we'll
Because-
figure it out.
Yeah, you know, if you don't, I know, Ben, you and I have discussed it, but
Yeah.
at some point in the next calendar year, I'll be retiring, so then I can go apply for these.
Well, good for you. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate
Okay,
everything.
thanks, folks.
very
Thank you for
much.
the
I know
time
you're
today.
busy, so.
That's on.
Appreciate it. And I know I have two people here. If you don't mind, I was going to get the clerk real quick before we talk to you, the moderator, about another topic. Liz, are you there? Liz Greendale?
Yes, I am.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening. I'm sorry, my camera's not working tonight.
That is quite all right. We can hear you. There's a couple articles that you had brought forward for general bylaw changes regarding kennel licensing.
Yes.
Could you just sort of
Okay.
like walk us? Sorry, go ahead.
What we're trying to do here, and it's both general bylaws and zoning bylaws, to be more in line with the state. The state passed Ollie's Law a year or so ago to more define kennel licensing and protect dogs that are in kennels. So it's just changing a number. Our current bylaws say 4 dogs, sorry, are a kennel. The state says 5. We are moving ours up to 5, so that we're in line with the state. So those are the only changes. Is the definition of a kennel would be 5 dogs, and in the language of the kennel description, it would be 5 dogs as opposed to 4.
So that's the only change, the substantive change in both of these bylaws
That is it.
would be to
That's
change
it.
to 5 dogs. Okay. Damon, Tina, do you have any questions about that?
Just one, Liz, the consequence of not changing this would be that their license could be in jeopardy because they could be acting as they think they would in any other part of the state, but here in Holliston, their license would be called into question because they had 5 dogs and not 4. Is that kind of where this goes in terms of consequences of not making the change?
It would actually be residents, because if somebody has 4 personal dogs, if they were to have, 4, right now they're required to have a kennel. But if they have 5, they
Got it.
don't have to with 4.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
then they would with 5.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Damon, anything?
No, just anecdotally, I literally had a conversation with someone today who has 3 dogs who was saying that they can't get a 4th because of the kennel law.
Okay.
So, interesting.
Okay.
I don't know. Fascinating. All right,
Now
thank you.
I-
That's all. I think I understand the gist of this. Thank you.
Okay. Liz, I appreciate you being patient with us while we got to that. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Have a wonderful evening.
Happy to be here. You too.
All right. Moving on to Michelle Zemer, our moderator. Of course, if you'd like to bring Joanne to the table. Welcome. We have our moderator and our town historian, who are coming here to talk a little bit about the 250th anniversary and some opportunities for town meeting. If you kind of want to walk us through what you're thinking about.
Sure, it's, nothing is firm in stone, and before I start, I want to say, my intent is not to make town meeting last longer.
It's not the Oscars.
That is.
We're not going to have songs and dances or anything like that. Okay.
Oh, wait, let me cross it off. You know, it's the 250th, and a lot of towns across the state are doing things. One of the things, when I moved to Holliston, you know, I'm from the Midwest, and I was so excited about Massachusetts and the history, and my birthday's the December 16th, which is the Boston Tea Party. And, you know, my very first birthday, we went to the reenactment, and I was really into it. And then, you know, we moved to Holliston, and you're like, nothing happened here. You know, we didn't have, you know, well, we didn't have battles, we didn't have, you know, you don't learn about Holliston when you're, you know, in school.
George Washington drove a truck to actually get up over the balancing rock instead of trying to push it over.
Right, that's it, is
We
George
should have a
Washington.
ritual, try to push it back. We should
Yeah,
do that
that's
every
right.
year, yeah. You know, it'd be as successful as George Washington was, as pushing it off, so. Yeah, but I think it would be a nice, fun community thing.
So we want to do something
Yeah.
that doesn't give someone a big education, but give them pride in Holliston and know that things did happen here.
Okay.
Right.
So one of the things that I talked to Joanne about is some kind of display in the lobby of town meeting, of the high school outside of, and so she can
Okay.
talk
Yeah.
about that a little.
Yeah, we brought it all together. One thing is that it's too bad that 1774 was much more exciting than Holliston, but unfortunately, that's not
Yeah,
the
you
way it
know.
is, because, you know, the British are going to be leaving next week.
Yep.
And it got pretty quiet after that, but not totally.
Right.
Yeah. And we wanted to also show not only what was going on as far as the war effort was happening, but also the other little things that were happening in Holliston according to the selectmen's meetings.
Yes.
We took it from there, and also a lot that came from the receipts and expenditures. And if you really want to have some great reading, that's at the public library. You know, in the back stacks in the reference area, where you can go from like 1766, I think it is, all the way up to 1800, and see all the stuff that they spent the money on. And it shows how the town was operating. Now, so what we did was, we took, first of all, the major events and all of the doings that were going on in Holliston, as far as, for instance, about what they were procuring for the war effort. Because remember, there wasn't any central army. It all had to be done grassroots, right from Holliston. So we have in here all of the events that came here. You know, cost of keeping men in service, for instance. That was all Holliston's responsibility in each town. You got a little bit of money from the colony, and really not much from the United States as it was being formed and everything. But it had to all come from here. And it came with some really interesting things about where money came from. One of them was about the widow Jerusha Russell. And what did she do? She donated some money to the town, or loaned it actually, for the purchase of guns. Yeah, it was that sort of thing. There were people that were bringing together food, clothing, shelter, and everything. And of course, the famous story of Staples Chamberlain, but that was 1778, who took it all down to Valley Forge.
Okay.
There were other ones that did that too. But we're listing out just some of the things that happened as far as business as usual with the town fathers, so to speak. A little bit of an introduction here. When we were putting it together with what we have for information, we could do an entire book just on this thing, so
Sure,
we have to
I'm sure.
really cut it back. But the other things we also had here was from the expenses of the town for how much money they had to pull together, you know, for 22 men to Ticonderoga in July. And then 5 men, well, they had to pay 70 pounds to go to New York, and it went all the way down just to show you what was being pulled together locally in order to get the soldiers going off. So from small town in Holliston, over 200 men served in some way or form in the War of the Revolution. A lot of what was going on was with people in town, perhaps some that were a little more too old to go much, you know. But that a lot of it was going on at home. So you have all of that. And I also have here also all of the soldiers who had died in service. And each one of them, of course, is an interesting story. In 1776, for our banner year that we're going to be looking at, in particular, Timothy Johnson. He was 17 years old. Probably, well, we're not really sure because they never really sent you back anything to tell you how they died in most cases. We do know when you get down to Valley Forge that some of them did die at Valley Forge, and they died of, I hope not hypothermia, but disease and food and all that. But that's the names here, and all of the money that was going out and coming in, because it was all locally raised, and then just the business as usual. And in here is not only about the war effort, but it was also some other little things. We wanted to make sure that it wasn't the only thing that we were talking about. For instance, down here, on June 25th, Elizabeth Travis, 9 years old, was indentured as an apprentice. That was a very common thing. It sounds terrible, but actually it's not as bad as it sounds. It's probably a good thing as far as she was concerned, because her mother had died and all that. But July 4th, the Declaration of Independence was ratified here, but it did not get to Boston until the 15th. You know, and so it is in the Holliston records, transcribed into the Holliston records in September. So that's how it kind of rolled out. But there were other things going on. You had to pay people, teachers in the schools. They was continuing to do that. But a lot of what was going on had to do with raising the money, or for instance, because what happened at Bunker Hill caused a lot of people to be displaced, and the Chamberlain family, of which we did have some in Holliston, we were sending them money for food, clothing, and shelter and rent as they were trying to get themselves reestablished back in Boston. And it was funny because the Charlestown selectmen sent a letter out to Holliston selectmen saying, hey, we've got this family here, and you really should be giving some money to help support them. Those are the types of things that the selectmen would end up with. And by the way, back then, you had a little extra help. There were 5 selectmen, not 3.
Little plug.
Yeah, right. Just saying.
Okay.
So our intention is to get these onto a poster and have them someplace in the hall. We have somebody that's working on that right now. She's trying to figure out about maybe getting them on easels, but she's working it out.
Okay.
Now, the other thing is, do I assume that you're going to at least make a slight mention of it?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, okay. So you have a slight mention of it, and I'm also thinking that perhaps somewhere on the town site that we ought to post this later, the
Okay.
pages of this later.
Yeah.
So that we can refer people to read up
Yeah.
on it. Because basically what it's going to be is for people standing in line and waiting to go in and maybe catching a little
Yeah.
bit of curiosity about it, and maybe they'll also look at it on the way out. But they may want to take a look at it more closely and perhaps putting it up somewhere on the
Yeah.
Town of Holliston website.
Yeah, no, we can definitely have that put up on the
Yeah.
website.
Yeah.
Once you have it digitized, we can do that
Sure.
definitely for you.
Oh, yes, I've got it digitized. I can send you
Beautiful.
those files. Yeah.
Wonderful. Sounds good. Yeah, send it to
Yes.
send it to the town manager, and we can.
Yes,
have that
okay.
ready.
All right,
But-
all right. I'll refer it all to him once that,
Yeah.
when it
Sounds
comes to that.
And you're saying like there would be potentially just like some statements made, or are you thinking anything else at town meeting?
Well, I've talked to talked to Chief Stone, and he's trying to arrange a color guard.
Okay.
And I've left a message for David List. I haven't heard back from him to get someone to sing the national anthem.
Okay.
And then I was going to read, this is a template that my MMA, which is the Mass Moderators Association.
Lots of MMAs.
MMA.
They actually call the other MMA the other MMA.
Of course they do.
that's good.
There's a template of what moderate, it's just 3 paragraphs, it's not
Okay.
that long, of what they're going to be reading.
Okay.
Or 4. And it should be tailored to Holliston.
Okay.
Because I thought this was interesting. In 1768, there was the Massachusetts Convention of Towns, and Timothy Rockwood was there, and he represented Holliston.
Okay.
So I thought, you don't think of things like that. And just that the MMA believes that the Declaration of Independence, it actually started in town meetings, because a lot of the wording
It did,
is
yeah.
wording that was in
Yeah.
Massachusetts town meetings.
Okay.
They asked
So-
for suggestions from the towns, and the one that we were discussing, it was about that the British in Boston had said that the towns and everything, you cannot have any town meetings. They were canceling everything like that, and and Michelle asked me to look it up, and I said, oh yeah, I know the answer. they said, no way. And they continued on business as usual, and it said, we will only follow the rules and regulations that are set forth by the Massachusetts colonial government. The heck with you British, So they considered, they carried it on. But I know, 1774 was really the most exciting time during this era in Holliston, because not only about what was going on leading up to the war, but also some things that were going on locally in this matters and other matters as well.
Right.
Yeah.
People think it started on a bridge with, the shot heard around the world, but it was actually the culmination of
Oh, they've
a
been
lot of-
working it up for
Yeah.
years before it, yeah.
That's all a big thing.
But then things quieted down in 1776 and everybody went to New York.
Right.
Where they belong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Look forward to all of it. Thank you. And the color guard,
That's
would be
nice idea.
quite a demonstration for
Yeah.
town meeting. So
Yeah.
thank you
Yeah.
for
I like things
reaching
like
out
that.
and organizing
That's
that.
right.
Yeah, I really love the idea. I feel like we've talked about this before, but are all those documents in the library, are they digitized in a way
No.
that would make them, okay.
No, you take your reading glasses and a pen and a pencil and some paper. No, it's really interesting because Holliston history is spread all over town. At the public library, because that's the most easily to access, that's where I found the receipts and expenditures, and there's a 4-volume set of these books. And the reading is amazing because it was done, all those transcriptions were taken out of town files back in the 1930s by the town historian at that time, Daniel Chase, God bless him, he did things I could never have done. But anyway, he went through town records and culled out different subject matter, including about the war and all that. And he put them into these books. He also apparently has sent a copy, a carbon copy, I assume, into Mass Archives at the time in the 1930s. But the thing is that he also made a statement in the essay that in the introduction, and this really struck me. It was around 1805, I think it was. There was an article in town meeting, and it said if it was considered to be by particularly the treasurer, he was appointed to him, that if he saw that it was within his, if he agreed that he would do this, that all of the old records would just be trashed, thrown out, okay? And I went, oh my God. And so then I made sure I looked it up on the next thing and to make sure that Dan Chase had it right. Holliston did not throw out the records. And in it he said that very few towns that he could find actually did save them. He said Waltham did, but he said I couldn't really find a trend where most of these places kept papers. So thank goodness Holliston did, because the history that most of this that I got out of there came from those records, and they are excellent reading. I mean, the history on it and everything. This was also in the same book here, and this is what I call the original newcomers to Holliston list. And this is in this during this time, during the Revolutionary War, and going through and seeing some of these names in here. Many of them I find elsewhere, but there's other ones that I learned, like Cato Hart, which we have to share with Framingham. But he was a Revolutionary War soldier, and as the quip on other records say, that his time in the Army was as long as George Washington's, which was very unusual, because most will go in for 3 months or even a week. We have a list of American soldiers that did just that, including those in Holliston. And I know who they are.
And we also have to have something about Sambo Freeman.
Oh, yeah.
1774, yes, Sambo Freeman.
Freedom
yeah.
Riders. Yeah.
And he is really interesting. You can find all of this online. You can Google him. Sambo Freeman, Massachusetts, 1774, and if you can't find him, look up Felix Holbrook, because it's under there too. Anyway, 4 men in Massachusetts presented a petition to the House of Representatives in Massachusetts, and it was very polite, very, very civil. Basically laying out a proposal to abolish slavery in Massachusetts. They were very kind about it. He even gave some, possibilities and, some ideas and everything like that. And apparently, the House of Representatives said, oh, this sounds like a great idea. And so they voted yes. And then it goes to the governor to sign. And the governor, who was sorry, a Tory.
You know my history.
Wow.
Yes, oh yes, of course, yes, of course. And so unfortunately, Governor Hutchinson did not sign it. Now, it's kind of a strange situation in Massachusetts because you would have free blacks living next to enslaved, including in Holliston. That was the situation here too. I will say that as far as I can tell, most were free blacks in Holliston, but not all. And so they had to wait about 8 years until about, well, they really started to abolish it in 1780, and I think they finished it. You know how legislatures can be very slow. And they did finally abolish it, and of course it was one of the earliest in the new United States.
It wasn't until a state Supreme Court decision about 2 years after the ratification.
You're
of
right.
that.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the thing is, those 4 men, and they were free blacks, and you can find that petition. It's online and everything, and the whole story behind it. And one of my chief regrets is that 2 out of those 4 men on that petition have Wikipedia pages. Sambo Freeman does not. You know anybody that can do a Wikipedia page? I have all
Sounds
the
like a good
material.
high school project or something.
I think
like a
that would be
capstone high school
absolutely
project.
good. Yeah,
Project.
I wish I could find somebody who would do that. Because Felix Holbrook was one of the other signers on that, and he does have a really nice Wikipedia page, and Holliston should do something about Freeman.
Yes.
Yeah, he was a
Agreed.
very interesting man. And oh, by the way, he was a carpenter. There was Jethro Jones, who was in this list, lived in Holliston for 10 years. If you happen to go down to Williamsburg Museum in Virginia, Jethro Jones's plane, his carpenter's plane, is on display there in that museum. And I got a call from the curator one time, and he's going, oh, well, we have a Jethro Jones. And I go, who, what? Well, I learned a whole lot about him very quickly because, and I said, well, how did you know that it was from here? He said he had carved on one side his name, Jethro Jones, and you can look up the pictures, it's online too, and on the back side it said Holliston.
And we're the only
and
Holliston in America, so it's going to be.
there you go. And he said, well, it was kind of easy to track you guys down.
And the only ones.
But it's great history because Jethro was also in here on the newcomers list as well. He was here for 10 years. And then he went on to, after that, he went to Leicester. He joined up in the Army and everything. He ended up in Blandford, where he did very well all the way along the line. And out in Blandford, they have some historical markers up there and also a street named after him, the whole bit. They've done their homework.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can get all of that online too.
But so if anyone here or anyone listening
Yeah.
has any ideas or
Yeah.
anything, contact one of us.
Okay.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
really appreciate you coming down.
Yeah.
And when you get that stuff digitized, send it to the town manager or when it's ready, and then we
Yeah.
can have it put on.
Well, what I can, wait a minute, what I can do, first of all, I mean, I shouldn't be walking away from it. There you go.
Okay.
There's the
Great.
rough draft, yeah.
Yeah.
As far as I know, that's exactly what it's going to go up as. I don't know if there's going to be any minor changes in the
When
meantime.
it's ready, you send it to
Yeah.
us, and we'll put it
Yeah.
on the website.
Okay, yeah, I'll get it to
Thank you
Frank.
both.
We'll see what
Thank
happens.
you so much. Have a
Okay.
wonderful evening.
Cheers.
All right, thanks.
All right. Okay. Due to an oversight, we did not have public comment on the agenda. But I'm going to offer the opportunity if anybody would like to make a public comment at this time. Anyone in the room interested in public comment? Alrighty then. Anyone on the Zoom call have a public comment this evening that they would like to share with us? Andreas, I see your hand raised. You give us your name and address, and you can give us your comment. And thank you.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. First of all, Andres Vargas, 12th First Street. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not sure if this is the right moment to talk about it. I know I had emailed you, Ben, about talking about the ice situation in snow that we had before.
Sure.
Is this the right moment for me to talk about this?
If you'd like to make a public comment, yeah, about it, this is an opportunity for you to do so.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty appropriate after the conversation we had about the budgets, Massachusetts budget, town budget, and how we must become a little bit more efficient in the use of our resources given the whole tax burdens that we are now facing. Basically, I want to pass a proposal, which I believe we won't be able to work it for maybe for October, and I wanted to know if and how the best way to proceed with this, if select board will support it, if the select board is willing to actually champion it, or if we should just come entirely from itself and other residents. The base of the
okay.
proposal.
Yep.
Yes.
No, I thought you were asking me for an answer, but go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm really looking to put this out on the board, and we don't need an answer tonight, but we do definitely start working on some solutions for this.
Okay.
Basically, what I've been seeing, and this is a problem that I've been coming up here to the board for over 8 years now. Not every year, because not every year we've had the snow we've had. So snow is one of those problems that if you ignore it long enough, it goes away.
Yes.
So, but we also know that as weather changes, we are going to have pretty bad storms coming our way. Some years without snow, but some years with 2 or 3 feet of snow. So we really need to get this in order now. Basically, what we're talking about, and I'm not sure if any of you had a chance to see the PowerPoint presentation I had emailed before. Nina, Damon, did any of you actually get to see that?
I do believe I saw it. It's been
Yes.
been a little bit, but yeah, I remember it.
Yes.
Okay, so basically the problem I have seen is the irresponsible management of snow and ice by commercial landlords and by the plow companies, basically all commercial. This does not involve any residential addresses, and so it only involve commercial ones. Of them basically blocking sidewalks, going and dumping snow on the roads, making the roads narrow, making the streets unsafe for children, drivers, pedestrians, dogs, pretty much everybody. Also ties into what you were talking, Tina, before about making Holliston a safe place for people to walk, for residents to be able to transit safely and enjoyably. And eventually, also, I mean, I wish Mr. Walker was here. I know Robert sent me through my street today. I would really love to know how much it cost to clean up the street today. How much money did us, the taxpayers, lose having to clean the street above the mess that the commercial landlords in First Street create? It would be a nice number to know, knowing that we're a couple $100,000 deep into snow cleaning, and if a lot of this comes from commercial people, well, so for many reasons, this problem needs to be tackled with legislation, not really with anything else, because we don't have legislation in the town to address the fact that if they do it, nothing happens, not even a slap on the wrist. So I'm saying, let's put some bark into it, and let's put some bite into it. Let's put some legislation that disallows this commercial landlords and plow companies from doing any kind of dangerous situations or situations that will involve the town having to come and clean it up. And in order to enforce it, include very heavy fines. I'm thinking in the order of $500 initial and $300 to $500 per day that it goes on. Thoughts, comments?
I have a question for you, Andres. You contacted Robert Walker regarding this, is that right? I believe he was CC'd or
I
included.
included
Okay.
everybody that I thought of would be relevant.
Okay.
You know?
All
Yes.
right. Thank you. Just so when we seek follow-up information, good to know Robert's read in on this. Thank you.
And also, I want to make something absolutely clear. The highway department has been working tirelessly this year on these tough storms. I have nothing but praises for the work they've done. In fact, I asked my Girl Scout to this year during Girl Scout Week, we will be creating our gift to the highway department for their hard work and stuff. We don't want to make their life hard. We want to make it easy.
Sure.
We want to make it easier for everybody, residents, the highway department, the town. And that is really what I want to see. So my question is, do we need to pass this on a vote on the October meeting? Is this something that can be changed bylaws directly by the select board?
I would say,
the next step?
what I would say is if we're going to talk about bylaws, it would have to go through town meeting process. And I think what I would say is maybe we get together in you can get together to talk to the board after town meeting, and we can start that process. We have thankfully, we have a little bit of runway before October, and we're not, we can make sure that we understand exactly what you're thinking about and stuff like that. And if you have, language that's been passed in other communities, for example, that's really useful because that means the Attorney General has already approved it. Things like that can be very beneficial in helping this board be able to assess that. I can't say whether or not we would put something on the warrant, this far in advance, with no language or deeper information that we would need to go through. But I think conceptually we understand what you're saying. We're happy to start that process, right after town meeting, to explore what options we have. We've actually talked, this board has actually talked about another situation with snow removal and, thinking about some of those kinds of things. The comment you made to me about that was you might not want to mix them together, but let's look at that as a, together to sort of understand that if that's something we want to explore and how we want to get there. Because I think you present an important question that I think we should start to tackle and explore when we have a little bit more time and bandwidth to really get into it.
Perfect. Yeah, I actually, in the email chain, I did send a draft proposal, very rough draft.
Okay.
Some starting an idea of what the language will look like.
Yeah.
And also extends to the towns
Okay.
that have current regulations. I've been more than glad to hope the regulations from those towns so we can use it as a template and as you said, based on what has been
Okay.
what already exists.
Sounds good. Andreas, thank you very much.
Email goes like it's a draft already.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, we'll go back and we can explore it and we can talk further in the time to come. Thank you.
Awesome, folks. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment on the Zoom this evening? All right, hearing none. It's after 9 o'clock, and I missed an item on the agenda, shockingly. I failed to take a vote to close the May 2026 town meeting warrant. So apologies, and are you both comfortable doing that this evening? We had set a time of 4 p.m. this evening to do so we can just make it official that it is closed.
Unacceptable. Can't believe we missed it. No.
I know.
Move to close the town meeting on today, March 9th, 2026, inclusive of articles as presented.
Seconded.
All right, all those in favor?
Yes.
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 All right, the warrant is now closed. We certainly are able to reopen it if we need to make edits, more like deleting articles and things like that. Substantive changes to articles do not require reopening. Anyway, okay, now we are caught up. Okay, select board member updates. Tina.
Given the hour and the early start I have tomorrow morning, I have none.
Okay. Damon?
I'll go with a quick one and not a long one. Just really interested to hear that some of those documents are not digitized from the Historical Society. I think that might be worth a conversation in the future to set aside some funds to do so. Feel things burn very well, and it'd be nice to have them
Things
in
like that
cloud.
could be, there might be grant opportunities
The
to
Historical
explore.
Commission is on that. When they
great.
presented to us
Oh,
the
well,
last time,
is
they
that
brought
comprehensive?
up, that was one of the items that they had was.
I thought it was
a rec-
digitizing the clerk's records. I don't know about the
Right.
ones that they're
They
talking about
talked
the
about
library.
other processes by which you could do that.
Okay.
So they're
Yeah,
interested.
As long as it's comprehensive. I'm
Yeah,
all
I'm
for
sure
having
they're,
that
I'm sure they're looking at all those things, because yes, I agree, they should
Yep.
be digitized and they should be searchable and you should be able to,
As much data to extrapolate. Let's do
You
it.
see things with AI being able to find things like this is what this is and being able to do all sorts of cool stuff that you might not have been able to find later.
That's it. That's all I'm saying. Cheers.
I have no select board member updates at this time either. Let's see, we have MSBA high school project updates as needed. I have asked this to be a standing agenda item just to give us some space to have a conversation if we need to. I don't believe there's anything. Cheryl, is there? Okay.
Not that I can see.
Alrighty. I just like to have it there just in case, because sometimes things can come up very quickly, and just having a little bit of space there to have it, I think, is important. Board business, I think we have one appointment.
Move to approve the appointment to the Open Space Committee for Bob Durling for a term to expire June 2026. And thank you to Bob Durling for volunteering. We actually have a letter. Would you like me to read that into the public comment, or the comment on this?
Sure.
We have a letter of support.
Why don't we read the one from him? Why don't we read his, because he wants to.
Thank you.
Let's read that
My
one.
name is, with this motion, my name is Bob Durling, and I'm interested in a position on the Open Space Committee. I have a deep interest in preserving the open spaces of Holliston. As a photographer, I've spent a lot of time documenting the wildlife and insect life of our town, and so I'm quite familiar with the many of the wild spaces, and I also spent a lot of time photographing Upswing Farm when they were still in town, and I love a good trail run too. I feel certain that my photography could be used as a marketing and informational asset for the committee. Please let me know what the next steps are. Next step should be for my potential candidacy. Thank you, Bob. You're doing it right now. Okay.
It's not potential anymore.
So the motion is out to appoint Bob Durling.
Seconded.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate you stepping up to volunteer. Warrants. Cheryl.
Yes. Okay, February 23rd was $3,366,525.18.
Okay.
And March 2nd was $562,511.47.
Wonderful. Excellent. Any other business?
I wonder if we should have a snow and ice policy review at some point on the agenda, if Robert Walker and Frank feel it's appropriate to bring it to a future agenda, given the year. We last updated it in '22. So I wonder if there's some reflection, a little debrief. Maybe there isn't, but maybe it's a conversation to have with Frank to see if it's warranted.
Maybe we can have that conversation. That's fine. If we want to do
That's
something
all.
like that. Okay. Damon, anything?
Nope. Good to
Cheryl?
go.
All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn at 9:12 p.m.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 9:12. Thank you very much for your time this evening, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the nice weather.
Recording.